and conspiracies. Peering into darkness is what we do. Derek and Sharon Gilbert break it all down for you.
Well, it's AI Ellis. That means it's time for PID Radio. Welcome. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and welcome to our living room, everybody. We are delighted you've chosen to join us. If you are brand new, we welcome you to our little family. And if you don't know, we call it PID Radio because PID stands for Peering into Darkness, meaning Derek and I, for 21 years, have been looking at the headlines and trying to figure out how does this relate to the Bible, and in particular, what are the plots and ploys of the fallen realm?
Principalities and powers and cosmic rulers over this present darkness.
You got it.
Well, if you are listening on YouTube, God bless you. Please subscribe, share, click that bell for notifications, and hit the like button. Please comment on the episode. That helps the algorithm. But then download our free app, because at some point we may do something that crosses a line. They sometimes go back into the archives and find a line.
That's just it. We've got 21 years of programs, and who knows at what point some algorithm search word is go, you interviewed that person in 2009. Well, Tom Horn.
Yeah. So please download our free mobile app. It's available for iOS, Android, and Amazon Kindle Fire devices. PIDradio.com/app or GilbertHouse.org/app. And of course, GilbertHouse.org is the main web hub for everything that we do.
It is indeed. By the way, if you are listening to this on YouTube, thank you very much. Please subscribe, share if you like it, and hit the notification bell, because we now know how, or Derek does, how to go live.
We do, yes. We're not doing this one live today, but I did
inadvertently.
Inadvertently, I streamed live the interview I did yesterday with Brian Godawa.
Yeah, I think did you delete it from YouTube? Or
I deleted it from YouTube and from X, but they will be going up to those platforms tomorrow night.
By the way, just so you know, Derek did not delete it because there was something said that he didn't like. It was just the intro and the outro weren't there.
Yeah, there's no post-production in it. And as a favor to Brian for his time, he's got a wonderful trailer for the book series that he's working on, Chronicles of the Watchers. Oh. And his new novel is book 6 in that 9-volume collection, the first of a trilogy about Daniel.
Yeah, but you told me, now I haven't listened to this yet or watched it yet. Didn't you tell me that this first book is only the first chapter of Daniel?
First chapter
How's
of Daniel.
How's he going to manage to get just 3 books out of that?
I don't know. I think you could probably get 9 at the rate he's going. But anyway, that will be up tomorrow evening. And there's a trailer that will be as part of this, so you can get kind of a look at what the series is all about. So that's the reason I deleted it. It's because the trailer isn't in there, and then the wrap, the intro and the outro.
Right. But we may do lives, and if you want to know when they're coming, hit the notification bell.
That's right. And that will alert you. And I did a test a few days back and was surprised that within minutes, people were joining in the chat.
Okay. Well, I'll go find out what just was bluey in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Clearly
I think it was the door to the laundry room.
Oh, that is what it was. Yeah, it's the door to the laundry room.
We've got windows open here because it's a beautiful day in the Ozarks. And apparently the wind coming in from the garage side of the house.
I'll just leave it shut.
Slammed the door to the laundry room.
Yeah, I forgot to prop it open. We've got a wonderful screen door in our garage.
Yeah.
And if I open one of the big doors, we get wonderful cross breeze through the house.
So this is how you know we are actually coming to you from our living room. And the reason for that, and we appreciate all the support that you've given us over the last few years to help us convert our pole barn into usable studio space. It's just my mobility issues now make it very difficult for me to get there from the living room, especially as I'm still recovering my strength after the bout with pneumonia last month.
Yeah, he lost 20 pounds in 10 days.
Yeah, and It was pretty much all muscle. I mean, I came back home and looked at my arms. It's like, what are these stick things coming out of my shoulders?
I know all the muscle you built up is, well, you're slowly building it up again.
Right.
So we'll give you more on the old, folks report at the old Giza report at the end of this. And if you're not interested in listening to that, we get it.
A lot going on this week as we are now into the, going into the third week. Mm-hmm. Because we've got, I think, 2 full weeks. It was 2 Saturdays ago, so it was about 2 weeks now that the operation, depending on which country you're talking about, Epic Fury or Roaring Lion. Began with Iran, and it is really leading to some very interesting developments, not just what's happening with the war itself, but with the protesters here in the United States, where you've got progressives now protesting in favor of a regime that killed over 30,000 of its own people.
Well, let me jump in really fast because a couple of things, as you said, a lot of things are happening, but it's widening. It's going beyond a regional war. Yeah. And with Iran shooting at its neighbors, yes, it's leading to a regional war, but also a NATO-involved war because we've got Turkey involved, we've got Greece involved over Cyprus.
Right.
Also, one of the stories this morning, I don't know if you saw it, sweetie, but apparently NATO has admitted that they had jets in the air going after some of those Russian drones. They admit.
Iranian drones.
Sorry, Iranian drones. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
But this was in the Ukraine area. So you saw a different story then.
Okay, all right.
NATO admitted that they were getting involved against Russia.
Russian drones in Ukraine. Okay, okay. Ugh, okay. I thought you were talking about the NATO flights that were taking down Iranian drones aimed at Turkey.
Yeah. Remember previously there was a Russian, quote-unquote, drone that sort of landed in Poland, a couple of them.
Right.
And I think that really
turned out that...
But now I want to confirm that what I'm saying is true.
Okay.
I saw it several hours ago. I've been up for a while. But if this is true, if I'm correct, it widens everything. Yeah, I mean, it seriously widens everything because think about this. NATO has been a treaty organization that involves the West, capital W. And Derek will explain what the West is if you're not sure. But the problem is the West has become primarily run by Islamic interests.
Yeah.
So the West has changed, meaning NATO. I'll look, honey. You don't have to look. NATO has now, by default, they're shifting. Just like the governments are shifting. Only a few governments over there, Hungary being one, are still acting like they're part of the West.
Right. Hungary, Slovakia, Czechia, Italy to an extent where Prime Minister Meloni has said now they're going to use the Navy to turn boats back trying to reach Egypt from Libya. Or trying to reach Italy from Egypt. Italy from Libya, from northern Africa. But Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK, really dragged his feet on committing any forces at all to this conflict with Iran. And it's because he is terrified of the Muslims in his own country. As we talked about last week in Manchester, England, where you've got the mounted Sharia police going after women who are not complying with Islamic law regarding proper dress.
All women.
Right. Not just Muslim women, but, English women as well. But there's news today, which is reported by Steve Watson of modernity.news, that labor councils, and labor is the sort of the equivalent of the Democratic Party here in the United States. They are the liberal, not quite as far left as the Greens, but pretty much. They are instructing schools to treat children's drawings as potential offenses under Islamic law. In other words, kids' drawings
Pictures
could
of
be
Jesus.
considered
If they
blasphemous.
if they draw a picture of Jesus.
Right.
Well, the irony of calling that drawing, and that's what I saw in the story, that's why I bring it up, is that Jesus is allegedly one of their prophets. They expect him to arrive, and as we would call the false prophet might be an error of eschatology.
no.
Because let me finish. Because this version of Jesus points to Allah.
The Mahdi.
Essentially.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's just the newest iteration, the one they're expecting.
Yes.
We're expecting the return of Jesus as Messiah, King of the world, our Redeemer.
They would probably see him as the Dajjal.
Kind of, ish, but the Dajjal is evil.
Right.
They don't see Jesus that way. They see
they,
Jesus as showing up and saying, hey, you guys are all right.
Yeah.
Muslim is the way to go.
Their conception of Isa, and I wrote about this in Bad Moon Rising as I tried to explain the basics of Muslim eschatology. Isa comes and is offered essentially the throne of the world, but no, he defers to the Mahdi.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what Muslims think is going to happen.
We would call that version the false prophet because he would point to the non-Messiah, the Antichrist, the one claiming to be Christ.
Yeah.
It's really weird because you see in our Christian eschatology that Jesus returns and becomes king.
Right.
But the Antichrist, who will be here before the true Christ arrives, will be pointed to by a false prophet who has a very lamb-like appearance.
Yeah, the book of Revelation lays that out.
So who knows what we're going to see, but it's definitely if any child draws anything and says, "Oh, that's Mullah," that's Allah, or that's Muhammad, or that's anybody that looks sort of Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
In fact, if for any reason they just don't like it.
So labor councils are actually telling their students, and this is reported by the Daily Mail, quote, "It is very important that the school understands this, and it is also careful not to ask its students to reproduce images of Jesus, Prophet Muhammad, or other figures considered to be prophets in Islam." They are also, some Muslim pupils may not wish to draw the human figure at all. And so teachers are not to encourage them to do that. But they're also saying that music and dance classes would be considered haram.
Yes.
Against the teachings of Islam.
This is all about control. This is all about making and many of these, especially in the north, Birmingham, Manchester, and in Yorkshire, you've got a lot of city councils, town councils, and county councils who are predominantly, if not entirely, Muslim.
Yeah.
So they have been, by election process, which their election process is even more ludicrous than our election process. I'll explain that in a minute.
Family voting.
Family voting. That's a nice way of saying they're cheating.
Yeah. You get a whole family goes into the voting booth all at once.
But here's the thing. They can go in covered head to toe.
Right.
You can't know who I am, which means they can vote multiple times.
Exactly. Yeah.
But anyway, they get into the councils and they essentially are now a Sharia court.
So the United Kingdom is now under Sharia law. Richard the Lionheart, if it were possible, would be spinning in his grave.
I don't believe in ghosts coming back for retribution, but I would love to see Jan Sobieski and Richard the Lionheart show up.
Vlad Tepes, John Hunyadi, and a few others.
Queen Elizabeth II, because she, by all accounts, including Billy Graham, was really very faithful to the Lord. And she was in a tough spot where you have to do certain things in the public. But privately, she really loved the Lord and understood what it was to be a real Christian. And I think she would come back also with a handbag.
Yeah.
And a corgi.
and she would deploy the corgis.
Oh,
one of the breeds of dogs that the Labour government in the UK is thinking of banning because they're offensive to Muslims.
Yes.
Dogs are haram altogether.
The claim is that we're trying to stop backyard breeding.
Oh, yeah, right.
No, you're just trying to stop breeding altogether.
Because Muslims find dogs offensive.
Because dogs understand the spirits going on.
They do, and that is one of the reasons that I won't go into this because it might get us a strike.
But bottom line is they're haram, which means it's haram, by the way, it's etymologically linked to the Hebrew word harem.
It's essentially a cognate. Yeah. Same word, different language. Yeah. Muhammad hated dogs, and so they all hate dogs. Anyway.
Hot dogs?
Well, got
not.
pork in them. Yeah. All beef, they might be okay. But in the UK, there is a particular practice of
butchering
the animals, which is really really cruel.
I think so too.
And it's I forget what the word is in Islam or in Muslims.
There's some states over here that have banned that.
Yeah.
Saying you cannot have halal meat.
That's the word.
And in fact, the Jewish way of doing it also is they don't stun the animal first. I think. Now, if I'm wrong, please let us know in the comments. But the fact is that we all love meat. Most of us love meat.
Yeah.
I love beef. Derek and I we love beef. And it's a nice way to build up your protein.
It is.
Your muscles.
Which I've been trying to do especially since getting back from the hospital.
Yeah, but that also means that you have to find a way to butcher the meat. And if you can do it in the kindest way possible, that's what we're for.
Right. And that is not how halal meat is butchered.
No. Anyway,
United Kingdom has fallen, sadly. And here in the United States, we're running into some of that. We talked about the Sharia-free America caucus in the Congress. About 36 Republican congressmen have joined and was part of this. I saw a comment by Rick Grinnell, who served in the first Trump administration, and now I think he's heads up the board for the Trump Kennedy Center.
Oh, yeah.
He, pretty sharp guy, but there was a congressman, I think it was Congressman Randy Fine, who said that Sharia law is fundamentally incompatible with the Constitution. And he's right. Mm-hmm. It is. Because there is no separation of church and state in Islam. I mean, set aside what it requires men to do. You know, you can have 4 wives, and if they talk back, you can beat them, and all of the way women are mistreated under Sharia. It's the fact that government under Sharia law has to be in the hands of the imams, and that is just
theocracy.
It is a theocracy. And Grinnell said, hey, how dare you attack the First Amendment of the Constitution? Well, look, Islam calls for freedom of religion until they become the majority. Then there is no more freedom of religion.
Exactly.
You either join Islam or you pay the jizya, which is the tax that allows you to remain in your religion as a second-class citizen.
Mm-hmm. Now, biblically speaking, is there a hint in Bible prophecy that we will see capitulation of the West? First of all, explain what the West is.
The West, yeah. And this is courtesy of Raymond Ibrahim and Dr. Timothy Furnish, whose works were very helpful in helping both of us understand better what Islam is all about. The West was what remained of Christendom.
I don't know if you can hear the birds in the background. We got the windows open. So.
Yeah, and they're enjoying the seeds out there.
Yeah. Anyway.
That's what remained of Christendom after Islam reached its high point of conquest in the early 8th century, around the time of the Battle of Tours, which is in France, northwest of Paris, in the year 732 AD, where Charles Martel, who was the king of the Franks, the French, defeated an Islamic army, Arab army, that had crossed over from Spain. They'd conquered all of Spain at this point, except for the Basque region in the north, which remained Christian. And it was from there, that region in the north, that the Reconquista began. But it took 700 years to push the Muslims back out of Spain. And it wasn't until King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, when they expelled, historically, we had always been taught that's when they expelled the Jews. No, they expelled the Jews because they believed the Jews were like Muslim adjacent.
Yeah, it was easiest to say, if you are not Christian, then you must leave.
Right, but it was not directed at the Jews specifically. No. But anyway, that's what was left of Christendom, because the armies of Islam, mainly Arabic, had conquered all of North Africa, all of the Middle East, Persia, into Afghanistan, into the Caucasus, most of what is now Turkey. They besieged Constantinople in the 7th century, were driven back. Mm-hmm. But
it wasn't until, the 15th century or something?
It was 1452 when they finally captured Constantinople. And ironically, it was the Greeks who were fleeing Constantinople and bringing their libraries of books with them that led to the so-called Enlightenment that began in the 15th and 16th centuries, when they suddenly, the Western world, France and England, got their hands on Greek philosophers.
So
because
basically
it was too dangerous to travel across the Mediterranean because of Islam.
So essentially the West are the nations that were not conquered by Islam.
Right, and everything west of the Balkans, basically.
Yep, a lot of stuff in Europe and, of course, the Western Hemisphere. Right. Because we weren't involved in it at all. Although there probably were ships that had Muslims aboard that also crossed.
And even
I don't think Columbus was the first.
No, and as late as the 17th century, in 1683, you mentioned Jan Sobieski, the king of Poland, who led the largest cavalry charge in history that saved Vienna just as the walls had been breached. Literally saved
Leopold's bacon.
Right. Leopold, who was the emperor of the so-called Holy Roman Empire. If Vienna had fallen, the German states to the north were wide open. Italy to the south, the Vatican would have been, it would have been bad. The Ottomans would have controlled all of Europe at that point. But even later in the 17th century, there were Muslim pirates who set up an outpost on a small island off the coast of Cornwall and were attacking English shipping in the 17th century.
Yep.
And in the late 18th century, the first war fought by the United States of America were against Muslims because they were enslaving our sailors.
In fact, Muslims enslaved a lot of Africans.
A lot of Africans, a lot of Europeans. There's an estimate by a scholar at Ohio State University that 1 million Europeans were enslaved between the time of King Henry VIII and George III. 1530 to 1780, that 250-year period. 1 million Europeans. So anyway.
So that's the West.
That's the West, and that is why the West is called the West. It was a reaction to the conquests of Islam. And as we discussed last week, the innovation brought by, I think we mentioned it, maybe it was on Skywatch TV, we talked about this. The innovation brought by Ayatollah Khomeini in 1979 was to transform Shia Islam into a faith that believed they could not try to wage jihad until the Mahdi returned. And they're waiting for the 12th Imam to return from occultation. He went into hiding in the year 941 AD. And he's going to return like King Arthur someday, but they're still waiting. And so Ayatollah Khomeini said, we're done waiting. We need to take over the Islamic world to prevent chaos. And then we'll take over the rest of the world. That's what Iran has been about since 1979.
By the way, and I'll get back to the question that I actually asked that got to the description of the West. I had mentioned earlier, before I forget, the NATO story.
Yeah.
You're right, it was involving Turkey, but here's the problem. Turkey and Greece are both part of the NATO pact.
Right.
So, Article 5 says if one NATO country is attacked, all have to come to the rescue.
Right.
So this very well could be beyond the Middle Eastern region and become just set Europe on fire, particularly as many of those countries have now capitulated to Islam.
Yeah.
And then we've got
Sleeper
Putin.
cells in all of these nations with the millions of Muslims that they've allowed into the country.
Yes, and over here as well.
Canada,
And-
there was just a story out yesterday talking about Canada saying, we've got all these, millions of Muslims here. We've got sleeper cells.
I know, and have for a long time. Did you know, listener, and I bet you did because you guys are really smart, that Putin allegedly told Trump, hey, all that nuclear, fissile stuff that's in Iran, we'll totally hold it. We'll put it in a lock box until they can safely have it again. Oh, really?
Yeah. The problem is, if you've got it refined to 60% purity, which is what I believe this material is, enough to make 11 nuclear weapons, they told the envoys for President Trump, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, yeah, we've got enough to make 11 bombs. You only need to refine it to 3% purity to use it for nuclear fuel in a reactor for generating electricity.
Exactly. There are a lot of things that could be done with even a small amount of that material. But one of the stories I saw is that the drones and the missiles being used not only in the Ukraine war but also in the Middle Eastern war, they can easily be loaded up with something that a cluster bomb could be loaded up. And then when it dispersed into its little cluster babies, each one could have a radioactive signal.
Just make a real nasty,
it would be
dirty
terrible.
bomb. Yeah.
But yeah, getting back to my question, is there anything in Bible prophecy that points to a total capitulation of the West? And is that one reason that we don't generally see the United States in Bible prophecy?
Anything
not clearly.
Well, I think part of it is that, the prophets were not aware of the existence of the Americas. Mm-hmm. They just didn't know it was there. Yeah,
there could have been a hint because, the Lord knows.
Well, and that's true. And there are some hints that the Amorites, the Phoenicians, knew about this. The Baal inscription at America's Stonehenge up in New Hampshire, for example. But that may just be the prevailing winds blew them one way. They couldn't figure out how to get back.
Possibly.
I don't know. I think there's some arguments that the lion with wings representing the United Kingdom and the United States
the eagle
together
being separated from the lion.
Right.
And you could say, okay, that's the United States becoming an independent country and leaving the lion, as also known as Great Britain.
Yeah. Well, you could also argue that the lion, which is an ancient symbol of Persia, and the eagle representing Rome.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's very difficult to know. But let me just do a little bit of a turn. How do you see the next year playing out? We'll just confine it to 52 weeks.
A lot depends on the political situation in Israel and the United States, because right now those are the two nations leading the offensive. And I think the longer this goes on, the greater the likelihood that there are political consequences for Trump and Netanyahu. Of course, we got the midterm elections coming up in November of this year. And the Republicans would like to hang on to the House and the Senate if they can. Polls indicate that the Democrats will probably get them back, which means Trump will probably be impeached again. Democrats have promised to do that. That may affect his ability to continue prosecuting the war. What will the people inside Iran do? This past week, we saw the son of Ayatollah Khameini, Mojtaba Khameini, named the supreme leader. But in what looked like almost a comedy sketch, when they announced it, they brought out a cardboard cutout, and they didn't even, it wasn't, they just basically put an image of his head, his face, on top of a humanoid-shaped piece of cardboard and brought it out in front of the crowd. Khamenei has yet to make a public appearance or a public statement.
There are rumors he's dead.
The rumors he's dead. The Daily Mail reported this week that, and the Sun also reported that, based on sources inside Iran, he was badly injured in an airstrike early on, has had one or perhaps both legs amputated, that his stomach or liver have ruptured, that he is comatose, is not even aware that he's now the supreme leader, is not aware that close family members, including his wife,
if his liver has ruptured, he's dead.
Yeah. So the question I was asked by somebody on social media is, why would they make him the supreme leader if he's in such dire physical straits? And my response is, well, it's similar to the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, is similar to the Praetorian Guard in ancient Rome. These are the special troops that are supposed to be just loyal to the leader alone, just like the Praetorian Guard was loyal to the emperor. But there were periods in history where the Praetorian Guard would say, hey, we're protecting this guy. We've got more swords than he's got. So we'll just tell him what he's going to do and say. Now, this is a case where apparently Mojtaba Khameini is not able to say anything. So the IRGC may have just said, all hail the new supreme leader. And whoever's running the IRGC right now is actually in charge of the country.
That's what I think. Getting back to Rome, though, that did happen. And I think there was even one, and it may have been Augustus's wife, who she is thought to have maybe directly intervened in the timing of his passing, or she may have asked the Praetorian Guard to take him out because she wanted her son to be the next. Get rid of Augustus because I don't like what he's doing. Let's get my son in there. Yeah, she was ruthless.
Yeah, it's...
So it's whoever has the most gold.
Whoever has the most gold and whoever can hire the most mercenaries. So that is the probable situation in Iran right now, that the IRGC is really running it. They are the hardcore true believers in the teachings of Ayatollah Khomeini that, hey, we need to take over the world, starting with our Sunni Muslim neighbors. But if the U.S. and Israel can continue to strike the IRGC, and then the police, Basij, I don't know how you pronounce it. I think it's BASICJ.
Oh, yeah.
The police force that's been...
Yeah, sort of like Basiji or something.
Something like that. Anyway, if they can continue to strike and weaken those forces, it's possible the people of Iran may be able to rise up. But I don't know what level of organization any kind of resistance in Iran has.
Do you think, again, looking at the next 52 weeks, that we will see... This is a two-part question, and then I've got to follow up. No. Do you think that we will start to see more lone wolf activities, someone who has been radicalized either through becoming a Muslim or has been, we've had 2 attacks by Muslim men here in the United States.
Right.
That were naturalized citizens. Naturalized
citizens, right. And the New York Post reporting that the attacker who rammed his truck into the Temple Israel synagogue in West Bloomfield Township in Michigan, near Detroit. Thankfully, no one inside the synagogue was hurt, which is a miracle because it's got it's the largest synagogue in the United States.
And there were explosives in the car.
Explosives in the vehicle. He had weapons with him as well, and he began firing. But they've got a very large daycare there.
Yeah.
And there were children on the premises. Security guards were able to take him down before he was able to injure anyone and before he was able to detonate the explosives. But yes, he, according to the New York Post, had been on the FBI's radar for more than 5 years. But he also, as a citizen of Lebanon, came in, was naturalized U.S. citizen, but had relatives in Hezbollah.
Yeah, so why on earth wasn't he deported?
Why was he allowed in the first place?
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, the attacker at Old Dominion University walked into an ROTC class.
In full tactical gear.
In full tactical gear. And again, how he managed to get onto the campus.
Here's what I saw. One person leaving did not secure the door as she left.
Oh.
This man, wearing full tactical, said he was one of the police officers who guarded the school and followed her. You know, doors open, he goes right in.
Walked right in.
Within seconds, he was inside.
And walked into the ROTC classroom and opened fire. The instructor was, 3 people were shot. I think the instructor was killed.
He did, yeah.
But the FBI revealed at a press conference that the students swarmed the gunman and without a weapon. I thought the initial report was that he had been stabbed by one of the students. The FBI spokesperson said no. He had not. They had no weapons. They basically, they beat the guy to death.
Oh my goodness.
He had a gun and had been firing, and the students, these young men in the classroom, jumped the guy, and they didn't describe it as beating him to death, but they said they were able to eliminate the threat.
Oh my goodness.
And a reporter asked, was he shot? No, he was not shot. So in other words, they pummeled him. God bless those students in that classroom for having the courage, instead of hiding behind desks when they would have been targets.
Right.
They, in a display of toxic masculinity.
Well, God bless those men. This was a ROTC class. Therefore, they had some understanding of
Reserve
defense.
Officer Training Corps, if you're not familiar with the, these are young men who were training to go into the military. And may have been women in the class too, I'm not sure. But anyway, they jumped the guy, eliminated him. But again, the question is, why was this man in the country? Now, remember, during the 4 years of Joe Biden, at least 11 million unvetted immigrants allowed across the border. The Biden administration ordering Border Patrol to literally weld floodgates in Arizona open on the border wall. Buses would drive up to those gates and just let men through. And again, it was primarily men of military age.
Yeah.
Many from China, but a lot from the Middle East as well. And they were released into the country. A lot from Africa, too. We have no idea who they are, where they are. It would be a surprise if there were not, as you say, lone wolf or perhaps sleeper cells that are being activated. And one of the events that took place just yesterday that the IRGC or whoever is speaking for the government of Iran right now said crossed a red line was the bombing attack on Karg Island.
Oh,
that's Kharg. Karg Island is an island that is essentially just a massive oil terminal. And 90% of the oil exported by Iran goes to Karg Island, where it is then loaded onto tankers. Now, President Trump made a point yesterday in his press conference, which was after the close of the evening news, so it didn't make the evening network news, which I think was by design, that they deliberately didn't hit the oil infrastructure on the island. They just hit the defensive emplacements there, the anti-aircraft emplacements, the airfield on Karg Island, so that now there are no defenses on Karg Island, and that infrastructure could be taken out at any moment. I don't think the Trump administration wants to do that because of the potential impact on global oil markets. The actual impact on the supply of oil to the Western world would be nil, because Europe, the United States, we're not buying oil from Iran. China's buying a lot of oil from Iran.
Exactly. We are now working out deals to get a lot of our oil either domestically or from places like Venezuela,
which used to supply a big chunk of a big percentage of the oil. I think about 10% of China's oil was coming from Venezuela. And a similar percentage coming from Iran. These moves, by the way, against Venezuela and Iran are as much about isolating China as anything else. Although I will say that it's, in the case of Iran, it's more that you had a what amounts to a nihilistic death cult that was on the verge of getting nuclear weapons, which would have been suicide for the West. I don't think they would have used it against Israel because they believed the Mahdi would come to Jerusalem where he would be crowned by Isa. So I don't think they were trying to destroy the place where the Mahdi is going to. Mahdi wouldn't like that. He would not be happy.
No,
but
not
I don't
at
think
all.
they would have any qualms about using ballistic missiles with nuclear warheads against London, Berlin, Paris, Washington, D.C., New York.
Okay. I said it was a two-part question.
Okay.
Here's the second part.
Part two.
Part two. In the next 52 weeks, do you see a possibility that either Trump or Netanyahu would be no longer part of the equation? And let me tell you, one reason I'm asking you that question is because on X now is a trending lie, but it's trending, that Netanyahu is dead.
Oh, yeah.
He is not. He is alive and still working.
Right.
There are those who wish he were,
Yeah,
but
just as
he
there
is
were.
not. So this is the thing about social media. You can create reality by getting enough bots to repeat it.
Yeah, and they've been doing this with claims that Tel Aviv had been completely destroyed.
And claims that Trump is very, very sick.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible. Both those men are in their 70s.
Yeah, but it's
And
also
both-
possible that someone would make
yes.
sure it
Right.
happened.
Yeah, and I that was the second part of my
Yeah.
answer there, because there have been several attempts on President Trump already. In fact, just last week, an Iranian asset was sentenced for plotting against President Trump and plotting against his life. But of course, we know that there was the shooter in Pennsylvania. There was the guy who was caught at Trump's golf course in Florida. He was sentenced this past year to prison. So there probably will be more attempts on both of their lives. And who knows, it might be somebody who thinks that they're doing the world a favor, because we've been hearing for 10 years now through the mainstream media amplifying voices saying Trump is literally Hitler.
Yeah, well, I think so. And we are seeing more and more young men who are part of a very loosely organized idea, a mindset that is sometimes referred to as Trantifa.
Yeah. These people who believe that they are the opposite gender. And I think what they've demonstrated over the course of the last couple of years, that when you take somebody who's already mentally unstable and put them on powerful hormones, you get bad results.
And I will go also back to social media. I think that many social media platforms are reinforcing what you and I believe is a sad case of delusion.
Yeah, where they believe that they are literally being targeted for genocide.
And these are individuals who the Lord died for them too.
Right.
There comes a point when the Holy Spirit will not strive with an individual. You say no too many times and say yes to other spirits. But for now, I have to believe that there is a possibility that those who are involved in that movement can still come out of it.
Yeah.
And so we need to pray for that.
Pray for them.
Next 52 weeks.
Yeah. Well, in fact, there was a young man who was arrested and pled guilty in January, 18-year-old Nikita Kasap, C-A-S-A-P, who pled guilty of killing his mother and stepfather, Wisconsin kid. And he had this created this fantasy in his mind that somehow he would get the inheritance from his parents' estate.
Oh.
And then use that money to finance an attempt on President Trump's life.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. He was sentenced. He pled guilty to 2 counts of first-degree intentional homicide. But this young man is a follower of a group that I wrote about in The Second Coming of Saturn, based on research by William Ramsey.
Oh,
The Order of Nine Angles.
9 angles. Yeah.
They are Odin worshippers who believe that groups like the Satanic Temple and other satanic groups are just cosplaying. They're LARPers. The Order of Nine Angles, they take their stuff seriously, including human sacrifice as a means to an end, which is not just controlling the world, but it's eliminating what they see as it's very much like the beliefs of the Nazis and the groups that led to the Nazis, the Ariosophists in the 1930s. Sharon has read a book, and I'm in the process of reading about 2/3 of the way through, a book called Hammer of the Gods, which goes into the theology behind what became the Nazi Party.
And I would even say it's in some ways the hidden theology, because there has been so much rewriting of that lead up to, we'll call it 1939, which is sort of when the West said, "Oh my goodness, he just invaded Poland." There were so many hints decades before that,
right,
that this is where everything was going. But the rewriting of history is, oh no, Hitler was a Christian. He wasn't any of these things. He wasn't at all into spiritual activity. He wasn't an occultist. Yeah, he was.
He was, absolutely.
He was not a Christian.
Yeah. The other book I need to read as part of the research for the forthcoming War of the Watchers book 2 is Peter Levenda's book, Unholy Alliance.
Oh, that is really good.
Yeah. But the Order of Nine Angles and their belief system based on Odin worship is very similar to the precursor groups to the Nazi Party. And they believe that they need to eliminate the weak religion of Christianity and what they call the Magi-based religion of the Jews. Christianity and Judaism in 1930s Germany, 1920s Germany, leading up to Hitler's rise to power, identified Christianity and Judaism as two of the great evils to befall the world, and that's where the Order of Nine Angles is.
Well, and this is intentional on Levenda's part. The title of his book, Unholy Alliance, is a play on the Holy Alliance that actually existed. It was a loosely formed battalion sent to other countries by not the Pope himself always. Sometimes it was the general, the Jesuit general. But there was again, I'm going to say loosely based because this was not an official Vatican policy. But they were based on the Hassassin. It's the word we get assassin from.
Yeah, right.
And if someone didn't play ball, then, oh, gosh, they fell onto some bullets. That's really awful. Oh, they were beaten to death.
Yeah.
No, that's
down
terrible.
An elevator shaft onto some bullets. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was this organization, this Holy Alliance, because it was believed that they were fighting for the Lord.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual twisting of truth.
And that gets full circle to what we were talking about last week, which was Alexander Dugin and his influence, whether recognized or not, on some right-wing podcasters / influencers here in the United States. This idea that the church needs to be in control of the political sphere of human society. And in a sense, boy, we're connecting all kinds of dots here. It goes to our PID Radio Throwback Thursday episode. We just released the day before yesterday, our first interview with Tom Horn from 20 years ago, March of 2006. In fact, it was released 20 years ago today, March 14th of 2006.
Oh, my goodness.
Where Tom was talking about Dominionism, Kingdom Now theology among Christians, where he dared to call out as a keynote speaker at the National Religious Broadcasters Association convention, Pat Robertson, who'd written a book on Kingdom Now theology. And he said, well, that didn't make me very popular. he said, I've never been invited back since.
Well, I'm sure it didn't. Pat Robertson, who has passed away now,
Yes.
When I was watching CBN and other shows that were on, it was an entire network. Pat Robertson was sort of the king of Christianity in many ways. And he had written books about Kingdom Now theology.
Right.
Even then, and this was in the 70s and 80s. In 1980, I sang with a gospel group that called Life Unlimited, and we were on the
700 Club.
700 Club, and got to meet Pat and some of the others. And I remember at the time thinking, because I've been following his broadcasts where he was trying to get people to get interested in investing in gold and other things like that to prepare for what was coming, because he believed that kingdom theology was a thing, but at the same time we had to prepare for the pushback.
Yeah.
He was in some ways a prepper.
Yeah. Dominion theology believes that we need to take these 7 mountains. This is the 7 mountains mandate of culture. And I used to remember what all 7 were. It's like business,
Education, entertainment,
family, entertainment, arts and entertainment, government, family, and politics. Yeah. Anyway, then there's no question that if Christians were to occupy and dominate those 7 spheres of influence on human culture, we would certainly have an impact on the culture at large. But Jesus never commanded us to take the dominion of those by imposing our will.
And it's that exactly, because that idea is counter to love the Lord with all your heart, soul, and mind. Love others
right.
as you love yourself. In order to have a theocracy based on the Bible, you have to lord it over the other people.
Yeah.
It's a pyramid structure.
Right. And interestingly, even though I was far less biblically grounded 20 years ago when I had that interview, that discussion with Tom, even then I remembered the Bible verse where Jesus said, the Gentiles, the rulers of the Gentiles, lord it over one another. I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it memorized, but it is not to be so among you. In other words, our goal is to change hearts and minds through witnessing, through sharing the hope that we have in Jesus Christ.
Amen.
True grassroots movement, change hearts and minds. You don't need then to impose Christian morality through the legal system and then government enforcement. That doesn't change any hearts. That does not bring people into the kingdom. But that's what was being preached by Pat Robertson
and others.
And others. He was not alone in this. There are others out there still proclaiming this today. But Tom Horn was warning about this 20 years ago. And we heard him on Steve Quayle's broadcast, The Q Files. And I was like, I'd never heard of this before.
Well, we were kind of early on, especially you. I'd been listening to, I guess you'd call it CB radio, not CB radio, but
shortwave.
Shortwave for a while. While I was at IU, I had a little radio that I listened to.
Yeah. And so we were listening to Steve Quayle. I was like, got to find out so anyway, reached out to Tom through Raiders News Network. And he was gracious enough to give us the interview. And he apparently liked what he heard from us enough that he had us on the Q Files.
I know.
In March of 2006. He guest hosted for Steve and interviewed us. So, and that began the long relationship and friendship
with the Horn family. We love them so much. So, yes, you can find that available on YouTube. It's also on our app.
Yeah. And if you subscribe to the podcast using your favorite podcatcher like Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, Spreaker, Pandora, you can find it on those.
We're everywhere because it's very possible that because we started on March 5th of 2005, that we might be the oldest continual podcast on the internet.
Right.
Definitely the oldest Christian one.
Yes. So anyway, Dominion theology is essentially, it is Christianized jihad.
Yeah.
And that is why we brought this into this discussion here. What's going on with the United States and Israel is an attempt to preempt by a fundamentalist strain. I won't call it radical because it's just fundamentalist.
Mm-hmm.
Violent Islam is fundamentalist Islam. It is mainstream Islam. It's Islam the way Muhammad taught it.
And the Muslims who do not behave that way will be told you must.
Yeah.
Along with all the Christians and all the Jews and everybody.
Right. So it was an attempt to preempt a government that was financing its nuclear efforts through the export of oil to countries like China that needed the money, or that needed its oil, and Iran using the money to not only finance its own nuclear ambitions, but to fund its proxies like Hezbollah. It was funding the Assad government in Syria because the Alawites are basically Shia. Hamas, even though they're Sunni, because they hate Israel. Enemy of my enemy is my friend. So Israel and the United States taking them out. This is not what the skeptics or the critics of the Trump administration are claiming. This, as we discussed last week, this is another endless war in the Middle East. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's a danger that if it goes the wrong way, it could go that way. I know there are some now pointing to the fact that the Pentagon has deployed 5,000 Marines to the region, and it's possible that the Marines will be used to secure Karg Island.
President Trump himself has said it's very likely that if this continues, and so, if he's sending troops over there, boots on the ground, he's not going to say no boots on the ground because, frankly, that's irresponsible.
Right, yeah. Obama said no boots on the ground, and then within months there were soldiers on the ground in Syria.
Wearing
and
high
they're
heels.
Still there.
Probably in high heels.
Still there.
No boots.
Yeah, they're wearing sneakers. So an invasion of Iran would be exceedingly difficult because of the mountainous terrain.
Yes.
But again, over the next year, who knows what will happen. I mean, if all goes well, the IRGC is weakened to a point where the people can rise up. There are reports coming out that some of the IRGC rank and file are deserting because their commanders have abandoned them.
And some of them are coming over here, I saw. Oh, yeah. There was a video that seemed to show someone dressed as a mullah arriving in an airport here in the United States.
You'd wonder why TSA would allow that.
Well, you would, wouldn't you?
Although TSA has been defunded because the Democrats in the Senate refused to pass a continuing resolution to fund the Department of Homeland Security.
This person flew out of Dubai.
Well.
Well, anyway, we have kind of covered a lot of territory, but those of you who are listening and you're thinking, what happened to 5 and 10? Because Derek used to break down the news every day, and it's not around anymore.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, I've released a video on that. You can find that on our YouTube channel, which is at Gilbert House. That's the address, youtube.com/@GilbertHouse. We will also have a video that Joe Horn was kind enough to produce after our last taping session, which deals with the Iran situation. And the rise of anti-Semitism. We recorded about a 10-minute video, 3 shows on that, and then we followed that with about a 10-minute video explaining why 5 and 10 has gone away. I had resigned at the end of January. I gave Joe basically 30 days notice.
For health reasons.
Yeah, it was for health reasons only. It had nothing to do with how we feel about the Horn family or Skywatch TV. We're still sitting on the panels there at Skywatch TV.
We love those guys.
We absolutely do, and we believe in the ministry and the work at Whispering Ponies Ranch, which is what Skywatch TV supports. So it's just that I sleep anywhere from 9 to 12 hours a night, and so I've got 3 to 6 hours less per day to work. And in order to get the work done that we want to do, which is PID Radio, our weekly Bible study, the Gilbert House Fellowship, and research and writing, something had to give. And it was the 5-6 hours a day I was putting into 5 and 10. And Joe understood, and he was okay with that. And again, the fact that we are still sitting on the panel at Skywatch TV tells you a lot about how we feel about them and how they feel about us. So watch for that video as soon as that Skywatch TV gets that produced and out. We will share that as well, because we want to make clear that it is not in any way a separation between us and Skywatch TV.
Not at all. Now, because of health reasons, you may have seen my post on Facebook about this. Derek and I, we have decided to put our house on the market.
Yeah.
We signed a contract with a good friend of ours, Sandy Cope. In fact, she's the one who sold us this house.
Right. In fact, this house belonged to her parents.
I know. And we have loved this house. We still love this property. We love the barn that you guys helped us to build and improve, build a barn better. You guys were so helpful with that. You made it happen. And we have loved doing it for about 3 years, being out in the barn. But now it's more and more a struggle for Derek with in many ways you can just about say from about the knees down, you're mostly paralyzed, but not completely. You can get around, but it's a struggle.
It's a struggle, and my balance is very poor. I need a cane to keep my balance, so yard work is next to impossible.
Yeah.
Maintenance. I mean, we got a 10-acre property here, which when we moved here was actually cheaper than the subdivision home and property that we sold back in Illinois.
That had maybe a third of an acre.
Third of an acre, and it was in a small town in southern Illinois, Coles County, which was, according to a study I saw, was the most affordable county in all of Illinois. And yet we moved here to the Ozarks, and it's like, for what we just sold there, we can buy 10 acres and get a 1,200 square foot building besides the house.
And the property taxes are a whole lot cheaper.
Yeah,
here.
it was like a quarter of what we were paying in Illinois.
And so we don't really want to sell our house.
No.
We love our house. We would stay here forever. Well, not forever. I mean, the Lord's got another place He's designed for us in the next world, in the real world.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've had to put it on the market. And so we are now, once the house sells, we will be relocating somewhere that is friendlier to what you need.
Yeah, either
and close to doctors.
Smaller yard or no yard, and closer to doctors. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, I do.
So
all
we're looking at a number
now,
looking at a number of options, and but again, it's simply because of my physical state, and the possibility exists that within about 3 weeks, and we'll slide this into the old geezer report.
We need a little sting or something. The geezers.
I'm sure we can get that. I'll have that for next week.
Excellent.
The insurance company wants another nerve conduction test to prove that I really need the intravenous immunoglobulin. While I was in the hospital for pneumonia, I think we mentioned last week, I was given the first course of treatment because the bed that opened up was in the neurology wing. So the neurologist looked at my chart and said, he's got CIDP, but he's not had this treatment yet. Okay, let's get him on the intravenous immunoglobulin. I was like, really? Great.
That was a wonderful God thing. It was like, whoa, Lord, good grief, pneumonia. But then...
Because the insurance company was been fighting it outside of the emergency, hospitalization. They paid for that first round, but they want the EMG, the nerve conduction test, to prove that
which you're getting in a couple of weeks.
Right, a little less than 2 weeks. So once we get past that, I should get another course at the infusion center, and 5 days of several hours a day of getting stuff pumped into my veins, which may result in a remission of my symptoms. And according to what I've read, some 40% of the people who get these treatments find that most, if not all, of their functionality is restored. Their nerves are healed. And if that's the case, and we can stay here, well, sweet.
And the Lord will make that happen.
But the Lord will make
He will make it clear.
Right.
You know, I've not been able to record the Armored Sheep for a long time, and so thank you for being patient on that. And also being patient for Book 9 of the Red Wing Saga. Boy, life happens, but eventually I'll be able to get that finished. But I started the Armored Sheep because I am convinced that we have to follow where our shepherd leads. We may not always like it. Yeah. It may be hard to slog up those hills, but there are also times when it's great green grass and clear blue water.
Right.
Other times takes us into the valley of the shadow of death.
Yeah. So,
but it's okay because he's there.
Right. And we appreciate your prayers because your prayers have made a huge difference. I mean, those 7 days, in memory now, it's interesting how those times when you're going through them, they just seem to last forever. And you get past it and it's like, well, it wasn't so bad.
But at the time.
I think psychologically the Lord removes that from you so that you're not, stressing over, I hope I don't never go through that again.
There's a line in one of the shows that I watch, and it was Sir Thomas More, who was the character, a real-life person. So there's a wonderful miniseries from back in the 60s called A Man for All Seasons. But he refused to bend his knee to King Henry VIII. And he believed that following Rome was the only way. Well, he was asked, don't you think it'll hurt, in one of the productions I've seen about it? And he said, I'm terrified of it. I think about it all the time, but it'll only be a few minutes at the most, maybe only a minute, but the Lord will not allow me to remember it. Mm-hmm. And there may be something to that because we see he wipes away all our tears.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I think.
And we even see, again, that I think speaks to, my memory of that 7 days. Because I will say again, those first 4 nights, I did not sleep more than 2 hours total in those first 4 days there in the hospital because I just could not lie back. When I did, I couldn't breathe and I would panic and I'd have to sit up.
Well, I know I didn't sleep much during that either, but for entirely different reasons. But anyway, you guys have been praying for us. Thank you very much. So the house is for sale. And if you've ever thought, boy, moving to the Ozarks sounds pretty cool, look us up.
And you want a big 1,200 square foot shop to work on your classic car or a huge man cave, or if you podcast and want a big studio space, there you go. There's
a lot of equipment that we are going to leave behind because we probably won't have room for it.
And won't need
We
it.
are still going to podcast. We're still going to do everything in wherever the Lord takes us.
Amen. Amen. So coming up, we got a few things to tell you about. We will be in Morningside on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, March 17th.
Yep, down at Blue Eye.
Yep.
In fact, Derek and I are sort of looking at property down there too, because looking ahead, when the house sells, we're going to need to get out.
Yeah, and we'll need to find a place quickly. And they got some condos down there that look really nice and are very affordable. Very
extremely affordable and beautiful.
Beautiful. But we'll be there at, March 17th, and recording should begin around 11 a.m.
Yeah, so St. Patty's Day.
Yeah, and if you're in the area and you'd like to, be in the audience, they welcome guests and visitors. And there's a wonderful Mexican restaurant there, Las Casitas.
Oh, my goodness, I love that place.
Wonderful food. So go there, get yourself a great lunch at the Mexican restaurant, and, just give us some support. Give the bakers some support. We're happy to see Jim healthy enough to be back on the desk.
I know. I'm so excited about that. Yep. Also, in July, we're going to be in Ohio.
July, the Go Therefore Conference in Brookville, Ohio. That's just outside Dayton. The Harvest Revival Center, Pastor Neil Peterson's church. Wonderful facility. Great setup for presentations because they got the big video screen in the back there. So slides, you can see them in the back row.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. So that'll be on Friday, July 24th and Saturday, July 25th. Speakers include Carl Gallups, Carl Teigrib, two of our favorite Carls, Dr. Greg Reed.
I love Greg Reed.
Oh
my goodness.
Man,
I love
spiritual
the Carls
warrior.
too.
Yep. John Haller.
Oh, my goodness.
His weekly prophecy update from Fellowship Bible Chapel in Columbus, Ohio is a must-watch. You need to subscribe to that YouTube channel and watch John's weekly take on events in the news. He does like a PID radio, except he's got slides.
Yeah.
Tom Hughes, also an expert in Bible. In fact, we ran into Tom at Argamon
in Israel, yes.
back in October. That's one of the footprint-shaped structures that Aaron Lipkin teaches about. Olivier Melnick, who's also a prophecy expert and often does interviews with John Haller. And, of course, Dr. Mike Spalding, who is organizing the conference. So wonderful gathering. If you can get to Dayton, Ohio, July 24th and 25th, please join us there. If you can't, streaming video will be available. And the media team at the Harvest Revival Center does an excellent job, high production values. So you can watch from the comfort of your own home and probably, maybe even get a better view than, sitting in the back of the Harvest Revival Center.
Yeah, so please join us there.
Yeah.
You need to sign up.
Then Remnant Rising 2.0 coming the 2 weeks after that.
The address to go to sign up?
GoThereforeConference.com. GoThereforeConference.com. Remnant Rising Conference, Remnant Rising 2.0, August 7th through 9th. That's at the Oasis Hotel and Convention Center in Springfield, Ohio.
It's a beautiful...
Springfield, Missouri.
It's kind of difficult to call it a hotel because it's more like a campus.
It really is. It's a fantastic facility for an event like that. And again, just another great gathering. Mike Kerr and Jeannie Moore, who put together the conferences, do a great job. Now,
I hope we get to see Barry again. We've got this wonderful friend who generally goes to the Hear the Watchman events.
Yep.
He has such a heart for service.
He does.
And he was kind enough to push you around in your wheelchair. It just saved you a bit of walking.
He did.
And Barry took care of it.
The speakers at this event, you and me, of course, Joe Horn from Skywatch TV, Vicki Joy Anderson, Jamie Walden.
Oh, my goodness.
Tony Merkel, host of the Confessionals podcast.
Oh, my goodness.
John Pounders. Dave Hodges, host of the Common Sense Show. Tracy Tennant.
I love her too.
Kenny C.
I mean, good. Right there. That's the reason for going right there.
Larry Ragland, Josh Tolley, whom we haven't seen Josh
seen him
in years.
Several years, yeah.
Yeah, he was a guest on Skywatch TV early on, and he was at one of the early.
A lot of the Hear the Watchman events.
Absolutely. David Paxton.
Oh, yeah.
And the praise and worship leaders, Gerard James and Sarah Weiss.
Oh, my, they're from Canada, unless, of course, they need to look at this property. You guys, come on, get out of Canada.
Yeah, really.
Carl, well, I don't think Tyker would leave.
No, they've got a wonderful cabin they built up there. Yeah, Manitoba's going to become the 51st state anyway. I'm joking, of course. President Trump might not be, but I am.
I don't think he's trying. There's also a reason
Alberta.
why he wants Greenland.
Yeah.
It's got a lot strategic in many ways.
A lot of conservative folks in Manitoba, outside of Winnipeg, anyway.
Great,
but Alberta, because of the oil and gas industry up there, the shale.
Also, we are still planning to go to Israel.
That is correct.
In October. By the way, if you want to sign up for Hear the Watchman, just go to hearthewatchman.com.
Hearthewatchman.com.
And you'll see all the stuff there. And I think we have links on our website.
We do, and also in the app.
Okay,
under the upcoming events section.
There you go. But yeah, we still are planning. Now, it does appear that the events in the Middle East are widening into a greater involvement. And if that continues to happen, and Derek and I, talking with the Lipkins, believe that there may be a difficulty in going in October, and it just may be that flights don't go. Sometimes airlines say, no, we can't get insurance to send our people there, so we're going to have to pause flights. If we think, and we're going to talk probably in the next 60 days and make that decision, if you go ahead and sign up and put your deposit down, you'll get everything back if you cannot go on the new dates. During the 2020 shift in reality, we had to reschedule, I think, 4 times.
We did, yeah.
And anybody who couldn't go got their money back.
Yeah. There is a $300 deposit upon registration, and this is now non-refundable. So I want to make that
okay.
clear.
Okay.
Yeah. Previously it was refundable, but this is a non-refundable deposit.
You can understand that because
Yeah.
they start making plans for all the people.
Right. Yeah. Booking hotel rooms and things like that.
They do.
So do bear that in mind. But anything beyond that $300, if you were to put down, say, initial payments toward the tour, and we have to reschedule, and you cannot accommodate the new dates, they will return all but that initial deposit.
Yeah, they have a really good structure for paying over, I think it's 3 or 4 payments.
Right, yeah. 3 payments. All the details linked from the calendar at our website and also on the mobile app that takes you right to the Gilbert House Ministries tour page at Lipkin Tours website.
And by the way, I can't tell you the exact dates because, well, frankly, I don't have it in front of me. But one of the alternate dates that Derek and I have discussed, if we do have to change from October, will probably be shortly after Easter.
Yeah.
So I think April.
Yeah, I know there are some friends of ours who are looking at May. The Prophecy Watchers tour is scheduled for May of this year, and I would say that one would be kind of iffy.
That probably will get rescheduled.
Yeah.
Now, I could be wrong, but just
looking at the way things are going. But the fact is, it may take longer to degrade the capabilities of not just the Iranian government, but Hezbollah, which has been flinging a lot of missiles into northern Israel over the last couple of weeks. So,
the Lipkins will never take a chance with your life.
Right, and nor would we.
No, we would not.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking, hey, Derek can barely get around, the Lipkins have talked about getting a little wheeled transport for Derek.
Yeah.
He gets to be in, his own little, golf cart or whatever, but something that folds up and can go underneath the bus with us.
Right.
So I'll tell you what, the driver who took us around last time, Eliko, we have just completely fallen in love with him. Derek and he communicate a lot.
Yeah, we exchange notes via WhatsApp several times a week, just checking on him to see what he's doing, how he's doing, because obviously he and his family have had to spend a lot of time in their safe rooms, their shelters.
Yeah. So Eliko will make sure that Derek can get around.
Yeah, Eliko is his English is a lot better than my Hebrew, but when he said, "I'm big boss," like. You look, he's got the shaved head like a lot of Israeli men do. He's definitely the big boss. So
he is.
We requested Eliko for our driver.
Soft heart.
Yes. So anyway, if we need to reschedule, we will. And of course, we're keeping an eye on the situation there. We pray for the people of Iran because this is an opportunity for them to reclaim their homeland. The situation here is different from, say, Iraq, where Islam has a stronger hold because it is essentially a religion based on tribal Arabic culture from the 7th century. It was imposed on the Persian people, and there is an ethnic tension between Persians and Arabs. They are wanting to reclaim their culture, and their pre-Arabic religion, Zoroastrianism, but there are many Iranians coming to Christ because of dreams and visions of a man in white.
Yes, it's so wonderful, and they are these are true conversions.
Yes, and imagine how the gospel might be proclaimed on the streets of Tehran if the IRGC were removed and suddenly it would be open to proclaim the gospel.
Yes, true religious freedom, because it used to be that way.
Yes, it was prior to 1979. So pray for the people of Iran. Pray for the wisdom of those who are making decisions on where to strike and why to strike in our military, in Israel's military. The other nations who are taking part in this. There are some reports that UAE, Saudi Arabia, even Qatar, Kuwait, Jordan, perhaps, because the Jordanian government.
Yemen Possibly Somaliland in Africa and the Horn of Africa.
That was one thing I wanted to mention before we were done today. I just saw this on X this morning. Somaliland, which is a breakaway region from Somalia, which is on the Red Sea. They're saying they've offered to the United States government, look, if Qatar, which is the site of the Al Ubaid air base, and the people of Qatar are a little upset that they're getting missiles flung at them because of the American military presence, said, look, we've got an airfield here. Move your air base here. All we ask is that you recognize the independence of Somaliland. We've got lots of rare earth minerals. Mm-hmm. We've got petroleum assets that need to be developed. We'll make a deal with you. Just recognize our independence. Somaliland has essentially been independent for over 30 years.
Mm-hmm. And it's been recognized by Israel. And Netanyahu said that he wants to put troops there.
Right. Again, because of its access at the entrance to the Red Sea, which would be a strategic place for the Israeli military, but also be strategic for the United States military.
It's also directly opposite Yemen.
Yeah, directly opposite Yemen, right. So I think the Saudis would probably appreciate that as well. So anyway, that interesting development just today as Somaliland made this offer publicly to the United States government. So, but pray that things go well. We do not wish for any innocents to be caught in the crossfire. No. There's that terrible story about the school that was hit by a missile. There are some who say that was the United States military, but there's also strong evidence it was a misfired Iranian missile.
Yes, the debris seems to indicate that.
Right. So the sad part is, regardless of what happened, 150 young girls are dead. So we do not wish for that. We are not bloodthirsty, and I don't think President Trump takes any of this lightly.
The Lord would prefer that all of them be saved.
Right. But as is the case with Hamas hiding behind civilians, the government of Iran, the Ayatollahs, were not going to allow their neighbors or the West to reside peacefully. You can only have peace when both sides want it. Yeah. Well, tomorrow our Gilbert House Fellowship Bible Study returns, and tomorrow night, Brian Godawa talks about his novel, Daniel, Exile in Babylon.
He's amazing.
He is.
He needs to slow down. He's making us look bad.
Well, he said, no, this one took me a year to write. Say, okay, well, it took me a year to write War of the Watchers, so I guess we're even. Anyway, until next time, I'm Derek Gilbert.
I am Sharon Gilbert. We love you guys so much. Bye-bye, everybody.
PID radio is on the air. Politics, prophecies, and conspiracy. Here